Hey everybody, thank you very much for beaming into Indiegogo's Instagram channel for a very special session. Um, I think this session will boldly go where no one has gone before. And with that, introducing today's exciting topic, Star Trek Voyager was the fifth series in the Star Trek franchise. And to many fans like myself, it was a series that allowed us to explore strange new worlds, new civilizations, and also it was a series that broke new ground for the franchise with the first ever featured female captain and Captain Catherine Janeway. And so last year marked the 25th anniversary since Voyager first aired. And in celebration of of the series, the creatives over at 455 Films are releasing a bold new Voyager documentary, which takes fans like myself behind the scenes with the writing staff, the cast, and the creative team. And in support of this amazing project, 455 launched their second campaign on Indiegogo, and they're calling on all Star Trek fans like you and like myself to engage and send this campaign to Warp Factor 10.5. I'm John. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and today I'm super excited to welcome a very special guest, star actor Garrett Wang, who played Ensign Harry Kim on the Voyager series. And so we're going to talk about his experiences. Of course, we're going to talk about Star Trek, and we're going to talk about the exciting details about the Voyager documentary. So, Garrett, welcome to the channel. Excited to have you here. And how excited are we to get this documentary started?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank you, John, my Asian brother from another Asian mother. And typically, when I'm getting interviewed, it's not an Asian American host. So I'm happy that you're here to do this for me today and for Indiegogo. Thank you so much. 455. It's really exciting that they are doing the Voyager documentary. They are the same team that was behind the Captains, the documentary For the Love of Spock, as well as the Deep Space Nine documentary, What We Left Behind, which was their first Indiegogo campaign. Voyager is their second Indiegogo campaign. So I am more than excited to be a part of this and to lend my helping hand in getting this thing made.
Awesome. And and Garrett, I had read that the Voyager cast reunited last year for Star Trek: The Cruise, if I'm not mistaken. And the team at 455 was able to capture a lot of film and do a lot of interviews. First of all, how was the cruise? And secondly, could you give us a little bit of an update as to where they are in the process today?
Sure. Let's talk about the cruise first of all. There have been many cruises, Star Trek cruise conventions in the past. The difference between the one that I went on last year, which is called Star Trek The Cruise, and the ones that I've been on decades ago, is that the prior ones before last year were just a portion of the ship. So let's say the ship had 2,000 passengers. 150 would be Star Trek fans and part of the convention, and the rest, the other 1,750, would be people that were just going on a cruise and confused why 100 people are running around in Star Trek uniforms. So Star Trek The Cruise, the one I went on in March of 2020, it was actually the second to last cruise to go out for that cruise line before the pandemic hit. Everybody on that cruise is a fan. So that's what makes it amazing. You can really let your inner Trek nerd come out and shine. I myself am a huge sci-fi fan. I have followed everything since the age of 8 when I saw Star Wars, the original Star Wars, in the theater in 1977. And after that, I fell in love with Star Trek. I saw the first Star Trek film in the movie theater as well. And I've been a lifelong sci-fi fan. So being on a cruise where everybody is of like mind is pretty exciting and a lot of fun. And as far as the documentary, they've shot some interviews. They were on the cruise, so they were there to film different aspects of the cruise. I helped out there. I was a bit of a host, bringing the camera around, showing them the different parts of the ship. I had a lot of fun doing that. And so, like I said, some interviews have been done, but of course, there's a lot more that needs to be done. For instance, they have to interview behind the scenes people, so producers and writers and visual effects people. So it's not just the actors that they're interviewing. Of course, the actors are a big part of it, but they're trying to get the most complete picture, or um, the most detailed look at Star Trek Voyager. And guess what? The fans deserve that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this show's been around, I can't even believe it, but it's literally over 2.5 decades now
Yeah.
that we premiered. I'm just happy that I have all my hair. I do have gray in there. It's hard to see here, but there is silver and gray going in certain parts. So, but it's truly amazing that 2.5 decades later, there's still so much love and so much
Absolutely.
uh, admiration, for the series as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just got to say, like, it must have been a pretty interesting sight to have half of the pool with people dressed up in Star Trek, and then Star Trek gear, and then half the pool just regular beach gear, on those other cruises.
Yeah.
But it's great to hear, that they're making a lot of progress on the production, and there's a lot more awesome stuff that they're going to be filming in the near future.
Yes.
One thing that that kind of comes to mind when you talk about interviewing like a large number of people, writers, crew, production. Star Trek's a really big production in general, and there are a lot of people involved. And with Voyager in particular, as a fan, there's a lot of meaty topics to cover. We talked a little bit about it. Uh, Kate Mulgrew being the first feature female captain in a Star Trek series. And then there's, the widely publicized, cast dynamics when Jerry Ryan joined the cast. Um, do you think maybe you could give us a preview for, what kinds of themes will be featured in the documentary? What are they going to be talking about?
Well, at this point, because it's incomplete, their raw footage is incomplete. As we mentioned before, there are many more interviews that need to be completed. They are going to be going to Europe, to a Star Trek convention in Germany, and also I think maybe another one possibly in the UK. So much stuff has not been filmed yet. They're only at the tip of the iceberg. And documentary filmmakers, essentially 455, they get as much as they can, and then they sift through all that raw footage, all that content, and then the themes slowly arise, right? So you don't really see any themes at this point in the process, other than just collecting content right now. So I am unable to give anybody any answer when it comes to themes, but I can say that if you look at their past work, 455 has done an excellent job, and they will continue doing an excellent job.
Awesome. Yeah. And on that note, their first campaign, the DS9 documentary, What We Left Behind, like there's one of the most interesting things from a fan perspective was kind of this idea of reuniting the writers' room and, storyboarding what would have happened had they made a season 8 of DS9. And I was curious, um, will the Voyager documentary have a similar concept in kind of exploring what could have happened next um, on the series if they did a subsequent season? And what do you think would have happened next if they did another season?
As brilliant as that was, when it comes to the Deep Space Nine documentary, of going from a writer's perspective and what would season 8 be like, Voyager is a completely different show. Yes, it is still Star Trek, but it's a completely different show, and they are going to take a completely different angle, guaranteed, because as creative filmmakers, they're going to want to be original and not copy something they did before. So it's going to be something completely different, but I guarantee you it will be special, and it will be moving, and it will be something that people will enjoy.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh,
And
yeah, yes, you're right. Yes. If I was to theorize what happened to season 8 of Voyager, um, I've mentioned this before at conventions every now and then. I joke around a lot if you get to know me. If you watch the show, the assumption is that Garrett Wang as a person is the same as Ensign Kim. So everyone thinks, that whatever character you see on television is the real life person, and that's really not true. I think Harry is very, very serious, and I'm more of a goofball, and that's really my mo, if you want to put it that way. But I always joke about season 8. That's simple. So Voyager gets back home, and they're there literally for maybe a week or two, and then something happens. They go out on, they take the ship out, and something happens, and they're once again thrown to the other side of the galaxy. Very similar to Gilligan's Island, the TV series. When they got back, they got lost again right afterwards. So my joke is, instead of going to the Delta Quadrant, we end up going to fluidic space with species 8472, and we have
oh
to
my
figure out a
gosh.
way to get back.
Oh my gosh. That would be a wonderful storyline. Another seven seasons, in fluidic space.
Definitely.
Um, I know that you and Robbie McNeil, who plays Tom Paris on Voyager, are host of the Delta Flyers podcast, and you folks share a lot of behind the scenes insights and stories with the fans. I was hoping maybe you could reach deep down and share, like a fun fact about Voyager, maybe that you haven't shared before, something hot off the press, um, anything that you'd like the fans to know about.
Wow. Hot off the press. I don't know if it's necessarily hot off the press, but it's still a good story. But let me first start by talking a little bit about the Delta Flyers. This podcast idea was something that was running, that was something in the back of my mind for
Yeah.
over a decade easily. And not until the pandemic happened and I had some free time did it become a reality. Um, I originally thought that it was going to be myself and only myself, but because of the pandemic, I took the advice of my lady Megan, and she said, "You should call Robbie. He's probably not doing anything right now." And Robbie McNeil has been incredibly successful as a television director. He's pretty much ended his career as an actor. He doesn't really do that. He just directs, and he's been directing for a long time. He's very good at it. And the pandemic, sure enough, it shut him down too. So I gave him a call, and he said, "Yeah, okay." So we started doing it. We launched it on, I think we launched it on Star Wars Day, so May 4th of 2020. So we did that, and it's been wonderful. We review all the different episodes of Voyager. We talk about the behind the scenes. So the story I'm going to relay to you is a sort of a behind the scenes story of when I was first cast in the role of Ensign Kim. Um, it's not common knowledge. There are some people who know about it, but there's others that don't. So it probably bears to. It's probably good that I repeat it now, so people that don't know it will know it. So when I got cast as Harry Kim, my talent agent told me that I needed to go to wardrobe. I had to go to Paramount Studios and have a fitting. So they had to take all my measurements and begin constructing my Starfleet uniform. I was one of the last people cast, so they were on a timetable. They had to get this thing done. And at the time, I was working on Margaret Cho's sitcom All American Girl, which lasted for a season over at ABC. So I was on the other side of the town, and I'm in the valley. And for those of you out there who know Los Angeles traffic, it's
Nightmare.
yeah, it's a nightmare. It really is. So when someone says, "Can you travel from the valley to Hollywood?" That's a tough drive, during rush hour. So I said, "Okay, I'll try my best." So I'm speeding over there, and I pull up to the front gates at Paramount, and the security guard at the front gate was a guy that I had actually made friends with, because it took me literally 6 auditions to finally win the role of Harry Kim. And this whole time, audition 2, 3, 4, 5, we struck up a friendship, and he had actually bet me He goes, I bet it's going to be you. You're going to get it. I go, man, I go, my resume is non-existent. They're going to cast somebody else. They're going to cast Dustin Nguyen from 21 Jump Street. They're not going to cast me. And so when I pulled up that day to go get that wardrobe fitting, he was there. And I pulled up, he goes, you got it, didn't you? I go, yes, I got it. You won the bet. You're right. I said, I'm here for a wardrobe fitting. I'm late. Can you direct me to where I need to park? And he says, yeah, just park in this parking lot over there. And he goes, it's a little full, so you're gonna have to look around for a space. So I hightail it over there, and I'm doing this NASCAR kind of version of driving around looking for my parking space. I'm speeding. I am definitely not obeying any type of speed limit because I'm pressed on time. And as I come around one corner, I'm just literally going way too fast. From the corner of my eye, I see this guy walk out between two cars, and he walks right in front of me. And from my periphery, I can see he's wearing a suit. So my first thought process was, this guy is a Paramount studio executive. Last thing I need to do is run this guy over. So I slam on my brakes and I stop literally within inches of taking this guy's legs out and possibly, maiming him, maybe even killing this guy. My heart is just beating 1,000 beats a minute, and his is too. And we lock eyes, and I notice it is none other than Harrison Ford. And I'm going, what? And he's just like, oh, I'm like, oh, and I just sat there. And remember, I'm a Star Wars fan, and all I could think of was like, I almost killed Han Solo or Indiana Jones, if Indiana Jones fans out there. And the thought of that really, when it hit me, I was floored, because I kept thinking, I came this close to being the most hated person in the world of sci-fi. If I had done something to Harrison Ford, who I love. I love his work. I'm a huge fan of Harrison Ford. He was in a suit that day because he was on his way to the screening. It was the premiere of the film Clear and Present Danger, the Tom Clancy
where he played the president, right? He played Jack Ryan, I think.
Right. He wasn't the president. He was the agent. Right. He played Jack Ryan. So he was, because like the next day, trade paper. I remember opening up the Variety, and on the front cover of the front page, it's Harrison Ford with all these Paramount execs, and they're sitting there smiling, taking pictures. Harrison Ford at the Clear and Present Danger screening at premiere at Paramount. And I kept thinking, oh, it could have read Harrison Ford dead because of young stupid Star Trek actor, first time Star Trek actor.
Oh my gosh.
So what's the moral of the story, kids? Don't speed. That's it. Just take it easy.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And you basically almost did what Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and countless other Star Wars bad guys were not able to do for many, many movies. So,
to take out Han Solo.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
That's a
story. This is a story that I relayed in the very first episode of our podcast, The Delta Flyers. And it's funny because I've told this story before, but telling it on the podcast, it really got new traction. I mean, there was all these news stories from around the world of people writing stuff like, did you know that Garrett Wang, Ensign Kim almost killed Harrison Ford? I'm like, wow, this is something that's not really new news, but it became new news again. And now that I'm telling it here, once again, it will be new news.
Yeah, and absolutely, folks. I mean, to those who are listening, if you really want some behind the scenes, funny, awesome content, Delta Flyers is the place for you. And that's a hilarious story, by the way. I'm sure he thinks about it often. Harrison does.
I still haven't bumped into him. I'm waiting for the day that I bump into him and say, like, you remember me? I was the stupid kid in the car speeding that almost took you out.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Well, awesome. If we were to switch back to the Voyager documentary real quick, one of the awesome things about, backing a campaign on Indiegogo, and in particular the Voyager documentary campaign, is that not only will fans get to enjoy the documentary, but they'll get access to some awesome perks as well. And so I was hoping to I've heard some some really cool things about away missions and some of the other things that they could get. Would you kind of give us a rundown as to what to expect on the perks front?
Yeah, yeah. You guys can check it out also on the Indiegogo site. You'll see all the perks. So you'll see T-shirts, Voyager themed T-shirts, pins. So the typical type of gift fare or benefit that you would get from a campaign. The pins are going to be in the likeness of each Voyager character. So you're going to see Harry. You're going to see B'Elanna. You're going to see Seven. You're going to see everybody as a pin, which is pretty cool. Zoom calls with different Star Trek celebs. But most interesting, in my opinion, are the away missions. The away missions, just like it sounds, you're going on a mission, an away mission. And these away missions are going to be to locations that are very specific to Star Trek. So, for instance, Vasquez Rocks. Vasquez Rocks, we know, has been the location where they have shot so many different Star Trek scenes from
Yeah.
different Star Trek, whether it's a Star Trek feature film or a TV show. We've been there. You can probably say that the first time they shot out there was from the original series, the
Yep.
scene between Captain Kirk and the
Gorn.
Gorn. So
Yep.
when he's fighting against the one lizard-looking alien, and that's back in 1966 or 65, whenever they shot that one, all the way up to I think literally every Star Trek series has made a trip out there to film out there. But other than Vasquez Rocks, there's going to be an away mission to the Griffith Park, the Griffith Observatory, where the planetarium over there is. And during these away missions, there will be Star Trek actors that will be joining the fans. So this is going to be a really fun thing for the fandom.
Awesome. I'm just totally geeking out. I can already kind of see, myself being led by, a bevy of Star Trek personnel to some of these locations to kind of get the nitty gritty details there. So that sounds super exciting.
Yeah.
Garrett, one of the things about Star Trek that I'm sure you're very familiar with is that they have a lot of passionate fans. And shout out to the Star Trek Reddit groups, the Trek BBS groups out there on the internet. We actually, in preparation for your coming on this channel, we asked them to deliver their top questions for Garrett Wang. And we got some great ones here. So, just as a little surprise, are you ready for a little bit of rapid fire photon torpedo questions from your fans out there on the internet?
Let's do it. Engage.
Engage. All right. Rapid fire question number one. What's your favorite food from the replicator?
Oh man. To be honest, Harry really did not order a lot from the replicator. Most of the time, he would just go to the mess hall and eat Neelix's Leola root stew. He didn't really enjoy it, but that's what it amounted to. He ate a lot of Neelix's cooking. But I do want to bring up the fact that when I first was cast on Voyager, I told the producers, I said, listen, I really do not want to play a stereotypical character, meaning a stereotypically Asian character.
Yeah.
I am very cognizant of that, and I hope that you will also be aware of that as well. And don't have Ensign Kim going into the mess hall ordering a bowl of chow mein or a side of kimchi. I just want him to be Starfleet first and Asian second. And they're like, okay, that's great. We'll remember that. And they did. They called me up season one actually, and they said, listen, we've got this garment, this piece of wardrobe you're supposed to wear. You're supposed to go down to this planet, and it's sort of like it's not an away mission, so you're in your regular clothes. You're not wearing your Starfleet uniform, so you're just wearing this one top that we're going to put on you. We want you to come and approve it because you might think it's too Asian or it might be too dead on. And basically, this top sort of it folded over. It's kind of like an Asian garment will do. A traditional Asian garment. And I got down there and I looked at it and I said, you know what? No, I'm okay with it. I mean, there's a lot of pattern and detail and stitching, so it didn't look overtly like a karate gi, like something you'd wear to go to karate
Yeah.
taekwondo class. And they said, yeah, this is a repurposed garment. This was worn by someone else in Star Trek world. And I said, oh, who else wore this? Oh, Patrick Stewart. And I said, oh, yes, I could wear this as a turban. I can wear it as a diaper. I'll do whatever you want. Once I knew that Patrick Stewart wore it, I was like, oh, sure, I'll wear it.
They washed it before they gave it to you, though.
Oh,
Right?
yes, they did. Yeah.
I'm just joking. Yeah, and on a serious note, I mean, Garrett, being an Asian American myself, I mean, back when Voyager was on the air, there just weren't that many Asian Americans on TV, and it was really good to see, you play the part, and you act Ensign Harry Kim. It was something that I think many people like myself, were really looking forward to on a weekly basis. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, John, I don't know if you know, well, you do know this, you just talked about it, but 1995, all the way through the late 90s, there were no other Asian males on television as a series regular in all of Hollywood.
Yeah.
All of Hollywood. I was at an Asian awards show years later, and I bump into Daniel Day Kim, and Daniel Day Kim is there to accept some award for doing Lost at the time he was on Lost, and he had guest starred on Voyager in one of the episodes. I think it was called Blink of an Eye. Yeah. And so I walked up to DDK and I was like, man, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on your role on Lost. It couldn't have happened to a better guy. And he looks at me, he's like, well, I got to thank you. I go, what? He's like, you were a groundbreaker. You paved the way for me. And I was like, what? I almost started crying. I was like, what? It was just like to hear that. It was like so nice. But Ensign Kim, Harry Kim, only Asian guy in the late 90s on television.
Yeah, and Star Trek, more broadly, very, very groundbreaking on a lot of different fronts, dating back to the original series as well. So that's one of the things that we really adore about Star Trek in general. Next question, rapid fire. What do you think about new Trek? And do you watch any of them? And is there any talk of you being involved in new Trek? I know there's a lot of folks on Reddit that are really clamoring for you to be involved in Lower Decks.
I would love to be involved in Lower Decks. I would, but for me, I've always had this idea that there needs to be a comedic type of Trek. I've thought about that for many, many years. And then Orville came out, and then Lower Decks came out, right? And I'm happy that finally somebody is producing something that is comedic, right? Because I love being goofy and funny, and finally we're getting something that people can laugh, right?
Yeah.
And that the ship is not going to blow up every episode. So yes, I follow all incarnations of Trek. I've watched Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks. I've seen pretty much everything that's out there. When you compare new Trek to, and when I say new Trek, I'm going to say J.J. Abrams' involvement 2008 and forward, right? When I compare new Trek to old Trek, it's different. No doubt, it's different. I would say, and when I say old Trek, I'm going to say TOS, TNG, Voyager, DS9, Enterprise. I feel like old Trek is very similar to watching theater and you're watching a Shakespearean play. It's classical, it's very stylized, Shakespeare is, and so is Star Trek. It's very stylized, the dialogue, and it is very theatrical. It is like a play in a way. New Trek, very modernized. The dialogue is definitely modernized. There's more of an ease with the dialogue. And I just think that it's really just two different flavors of Trek. It's all Trek, but just a different flavor, different type of theater, different type of entertainment in terms of how they go about it. But it's still good, whether it's new or old. I watch it all.
Awesome. And I think the pacing is a little bit different too in New Trek. It seems to be a lot more breakneck speed at some points in the production.
Oh yeah, but that's across the board. If you look at anything, whether it's sci-fi or a drama or even a sitcom, it's quick cuts. It's fast. It's sort of like, okay, we don't want to lose your attention. We're gonna keep you glued to your seat, and it's go, 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 go. And, that's good sometimes, but I do think that you need a combination of quick scenes and quick pace, as well as a little bit calmer, as well
Yeah.
as slow. You need it all. You need it all. And I think JJ's film in 2008 was the perfect example of really a lot of action and then balanced with a nice, slower developing scene, which isn't, making you, freak out and go and grab the edge of your seat. So that I think was the perfect marriage of fast and slow.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Next question, along the same lines of, Shakespearean, very philosophical, which is greater, one tribble or two tribbles?
Um, Neither. That is going to be my answer, because whether you have one tribble or two, they're both, or the tribble will always reproduce and continue reproducing in each one. So it's neither. They're identical whether you have one or two, because the end result is going to be trouble.
All right, awesome. I think the internet would love that answer. And next question from Reddit. There's a brief section in the most recent Celebration book where the actors talk about, workplace boredom and pranks on the set. Can you maybe share with us a memorable prank story?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. There are so many pranks and so many goofy moments in the filming of Voyager. It's difficult to answer that question, but I will. The one that comes to mind, it comes to mind because we just did an episode of the Delta Flyers talking about this particular episode. Season 3, there's an episode called The Shoot, which is Heavy Harry Kim and Tom Paris. They get trapped in the alien prison ship. And, the entire episode, they're basically in prison and fighting off other unsavory types that seem to be, wanting to take away their shoes and their this and their that. And so while we were filming that, the end of the episode, sorry if it's a spoiler for any of you who haven't seen the episode, Janeway and Tuvok come in to save the day, and they slide in through the chute. There's an actual chute where they drop the prisoners off, and it's like a slide, it's like a children's slide with a force field on it. And so when they were filming, either they were filming or they were rehearsing, I can't remember which, but the director called action, and the chute opened up, and instead of Janeway and Tuvok coming through, Tim Russ, who is the biggest practical joker of all of us, and I know that's hard to believe because he's the Vulcan and he's so Vulcan-like, and you just don't think that's the guy that's going to pull the jokes. But the bottom line is, it was Tuvok always. It was always Tim Russ. Tim and Janeway don't drop in through the chute. Tim decides it would be funny if he rolled a fake head down the chute. So we're waiting, and we hear koom, 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 and out comes this fake head, and it lands on the ground right there. And we're all just like laughing our butts off, literally, after we saw that. And you can hear Tim at the top of on the second level of that set, and he's cracking up. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah, that's a good
I
one.
would never have, I think you called it. I would never have called Tim Russ as the biggest practical joker on the set.
No,
I would have called, to be honest, I would have called Picardo or maybe,
yeah,
Ethan Phillips, but I
right,
would never have called Tim Russ.
no,
Oh my gosh, that's a good one.
yeah.
What was your favorite episode to make, and why?
I'm always gonna say Caretaker, the pilot episode, because typically when we film an episode, it takes 7 days to shoot one episode. Caretaker was a 2-part episode, really, broadcast as one episode. And so that should have taken 14 days, but production decided that we needed 31 days to film that. And we went on location to a lot of different places. I remember El Mirage dry lake bed. We drove out there to film out there, and that's when we come out of the Ocampan underground. You see that vast expanse. That's a dry lake bed.
Wow.
And just a quick side story. Like the first day that we were out there, I'm sitting there on set, and I see a helicopter flying towards set. I'm like, what what is that? And someone goes, oh, that's our director of photography. He's coming to work. So our director of photography had his own personal
Wow.
helicopter, like one of those one man kind of craft, hobby helicopters. He flew that to the dry lake bed, which I thought, wow, this
Wow.
is pretty cool. But because we were on location, all these locations around Southern California, it felt like a grand adventure. It
Yeah.
felt so exciting, like we were going here, we're going there. And also, it was the first time that I met all my fellow castmates who would go on to be my friends throughout, these last 2.5 decades. So it
Yeah.
was really the first time that I started bonding with my castmates was
Amazing.
during Caretaker.
Amazing. Yeah, and I know kind of on the same theme as the away missions, the Southern California, landscape is very diverse. So, there's a whole lot of scenes in Caretaker that have very kind of like like places that you would go and shoot for different elements of the story. So that sounds super interesting. Um, Next question: if you had a holodeck, what program would you like to experience?
This is an interesting question. My first thought about that is that Harry really got to experience very few holodecks, other than Captain Proton and Fairhaven. Harry was always left on the bridge. When the Hirogen came and took over the ship and started using Voyager as this training ground for all their hunters, and there was the huge World War II conspiracy. It's not conspiracy. The World War II holodeck simulation. That to me would have been amazing to be part of that. And of course, Harry's on the bridge fixing EPS relays, and it's just like, oh, really? And oh, when they went down to Earth, at Future's End, and they're at the Santa Monica Pier and they're Griffith Observatory. Harry is left on the ship yet again. So, so this is a kind of a touchy question for me. It brings up a lot of pain from my past, but I will say, if I had to choose any part of history or any simulation that I could have, I would love to go back to the times of ancient Greece when the 300 Greeks defended the pass at Thermopylae against the onslaught of the Persian army. So basically, the 300
Got
holodeck
it.
simulation. Yeah,
And
as one of the
which
Greeks,
side would you
not
play?
not the Persians though. Right?
Got it. Got it. Got it. All right. Good to clear that up. All right. Next question. Who's better at Dom Jot, you or Robbie McNeil?
We didn't play Dom Jot on Voyager. We played regular pool, regular billiards. Um, I don't know if who's better between Robbie and I. I will say Tom Paris is better than Harry Kim because Tom Paris spent all his time in Sandrines in real life and on Voyager. So I think he's had many, many more hours of practice. So he's better.
Absolutely. And how does it feel to be one of People Magazine's most 50 most beautiful people?
It's funny when people say that. They're like, "Oh wow, you were part of People Magazine's 50 sexiest people." I go, "No, it's 50 most beautiful. It's not sexy. It's the most beautiful people." This was in 1997. It was an honor bestowed upon me that I was very grateful to receive that. In At that point in time in 1997, only one other person from the world of Star Trek had made that issue, and that was Sir Patrick Stewart
Yep.
and myself. Obviously, now that we have Discovery and the newer Trek, Michelle Yeoh has been part of the Star Trek world, and Michelle Yeoh has been in that issue, I think, a couple of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing. The funny story around that is that after 1997, every year after the guys in the makeup trailer, our makeup artists, would always joke around with me. So it would be in like 1998, and they said, "Oh, Garrett, we're so sorry. You're number 65. You didn't make the 50 most beautiful. You're only the 65th most beautiful person in the world." And then each year after that, they would just add numbers on. So when we wrapped the final season of Voyager, like, Garrett, we really sincerely hope that you will rise above the rank of 657th most beautiful person in the world and make it back to the 50.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay. We're almost at time, and I think we have time for just one more question, and
Hmm.
it's a good one. In all of Star Trek, which character would you like to do a scene with? And what would it look like? Would it be, sparring with Worf or 4D chess with Spock? Would it be, promotion by Admiral Kirk?
Wow. I mean, those are all great characters. Um, I would say, ooh, Khan comes to mind first. So Ricardo Montalban from original series, Khan. But yes, but if I'm gonna stay true to my Asian American self, I'm gonna have to pick George Takei as Sulu. I would have to have a scene with Sulu for sure.
And could you give us your best George Takei impression?
Well, that scene, let's make it comedic. That scene is going to be me talking to Sulu, but me doing Sulu's voice. So Sulu would be sitting there saying, Ensign Kim, how are you today? And I would say, I'm doing fine. Admiral Sulu, how are you? And he would say, why are you talking like me? I said, I'm not talking like you. This is the way I talk. No, that's how I talk. Um,
Oh my gosh. That's spot on.
you like it?
That's really spot on.
Thank you, John. I told George. I said, listen, if you ever get laryngitis, please, if you have voiceover to do, call me. I'll do it for free. I don't need to be paid. I just would love to be able to do your voice, George.
Oh
Professional.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's totally spot on. All right. Well, fans, uh, do me a favor. Go follow Garrett Wang at GarrettRwang on Instagram, Twitter, all social media platforms. Go follow Void Documentary and go follow 455 Films. Go and check out the Delta Flyers podcast. A lot of good stuff with Garrett and Robbie McNeil on there. And I'll pass it back to you, Garrett. Any final thoughts from your side?
Sure. First of all, I want to explain to you why my social media is at Garrett Wang. People are probably thinking, why would you throw your middle initial there? I was being cute. I was following Jerry Ryan's lead. She was the first one to adopt Twitter, and she put Jerry L. Ryan, her middle name, Lynn, Jerry Lynn Ryan. So I thought, hey, I'll do that too. Unbeknownst to me, that somebody would take at Garrett Wang, which would be the most
Ah,
logical place, right? So then I go to that account on Twitter, right, and I message this guy, and it's a picture of two Asian kids coming out of the ocean onto a boat. So it's taken from above, so you see the top of their heads, but not really their faces. So it could be my profile photo. And so I go to this account and I message this guy. He's like, "Oh, you're the real Garrett." I'm like, yeah. So what Garrett are you?" He was like, "I'm Singapore Garrett." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, Singapore Garrett, is there any way you could change your profile photo so people don't confuse your account for who I am?" And he's like, "Nope, I like it. I'm not changing it."
oh
I said,
my goodness.
"Singapore Garrett, how old are you?" 13. I go, okay, well, that explains everything right now. I'm arguing with a teenager, which, you're never going to win, right? So,
Never
um,
gonna win that one.
yeah, so that's why my Twitter and my Instagram is at Garrett Rwang. But what I want to say that I want to tell all the fans out there, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to John and I chat today. And I encourage you all to go out and donate to this Indiegogo campaign. I know the campaign actually launched a day and a half ago, and it's doing extremely well right now. But just to make it very clear to all the fans out there, because they met or surpassed the initial goal that they had, it doesn't mean that it's been funded. I know that on social media today, there's been a lot of chatter about people saying, yep, well, I don't really need to donate because it's already been funded. It hasn't been funded completely. So they're definitely looking for people to continue to donate. So please go to the Indiegogo site, check it out, and donate and look at all the wonderful benefits that we have. And I cannot wait for this documentary to be finished and for the world to be able to see it.
Totally echo that. Garrett, thank you so much for coming on the channel and chatting. Fans, go out there, as Garrett said, go back and support this campaign, make it happen. In the next couple of days, 455 Films is going to be taking over Indiegogo's Instagram. So be sure to follow along. There's more fun, more exclusive stories about the documentary and the campaign. And of course, everybody live long and prosper. See you all. Bye.